Hi, I'm Mike Zale, Ogden's town supervisor, and I'm back with another non-traditional 10-Minute Tuesday. This is typically a video series where I just give you updates on what's going on here at Town Hall. We've kind of taken a break at the beginning of this year because I really just wanted people to get a sense for, what is the actual authority of the town of Ogden government? What do we have authority over? What do we not have authority over? And then even break that down further. What is the role and responsibility of the town supervisor, the town board, all of the support boards? How do building projects even come to fruition? I've spent 10 years in education, 13 years as a high school soccer coach, and I just believe that, the only thing that will really help people understand better is education. And so this has been my attempt to try and let you know how this stuff works. I'll be honest, I didn't know most of this until I got into this position. And I said, what do you mean we have county roads and state roads and town and village and private? Well, we spent a lot of time breaking that down and even showing you the maps in the town in the last two videos. It was a really great exercise, and there were thousands of views on those videos, but I really appreciated the number of people that came up to me in Tops and at soccer games and said, man, that was really educational. I really appreciate that. So I know we're on the right track, and I'm excited for the next couple of videos that are coming. We did take a 1 week break because we had a press conference last week, and it was wonderful. It was a bipartisan press conference, really asking for the governor to really expand the amount of state aid funding that we get for our highway. It's called CHIPS. And it was bipartisan in that we had members of both conferences in the state come out, and we were all asking for the same thing. It was beautiful. And there were a couple of things that I was looking at from the supervisor's perspective that really kind of relates to what we've been talking about. But today I really want to go back to the roles of all the different boards. And let's just start here. There is a town board made up of elected officials, and then there are three other support boards that are made up of appointed residents. So these are not political. These are appointed by the town board to serve in these capacities. And they are this. There is a planning board, which, if I were to really scale back that definition, the planning board is in charge of new construction projects. So people think the town board ultimately authorizes some new commercial building to come in. We're not. It's actually got to go through the planning board process and get their approval. Then there's the zoning board of appeals. We'll talk about that a little bit here, but the zoning board of appeals is when you come up against a town code, which again, the town code is actually set by the town board. These are rules that we have here in town. If you don't like those rules, that's fine. There's two options. Number one, you can petition the town board to change that code or that rule. Or number two, you can just go to the zoning board of appeals where they'll review your ask and they'll try to say, is this a reasonable ask that's slightly outside the code? And they'll either approve or they'll deny. But that's what it's called, Zoning Board of Appeals. The third one is our environmental board. It's actually called our conservation board. And that's where they go through what's called a secret process and just evaluate every construction project from the standpoint of environmental stability and all of the aspects that could go into impacts of environment. Today, I really want to talk about how all those boards have to work together. And then in future videos, we're really going to take a deep dive into, what is the individual function of all of them. So they all have to work together, but there is a lot of separation. And, today, what I really want to talk about is the town board. You know this because we talked about a little bit in the last video that the town board is the legislative body. I am one of the 5 members of that legislative body. And we're responsible for a bunch of stuff. The supervisor does not get to sign anything without town board approval. We don't get to spend anything without town board approval. So I don't have all this executive authority. I talked about that in the last video. So there's that. There's the governance of all the finances. But one of the big things that the town board has responsibility to do is to set and maintain town code. Town code is so important because it's unique to us. Yes, a lot of the codes are very similar to all the other municipalities, but we get to decide what we want here in the town of Ogden. If we don't like a certain code, or we feel like something needs to be updated, we actually have to have we have to have a meeting, we have to take a vote, we have to get community input in order to change that code. But the town board is the only board that is allowed to make those changes. And we have. In fact, there a couple of years ago, we made a change to the town code that did at one point say you can only have 4-foot fences. And this came together to the board, and there was a petition. Hey, there's a whole bunch of these 6-foot fences that come in, and maybe we should up that to 6 feet. I personally was not a big fan of that. But that's the beauty of having a 5-person board, is that, the majority of the board gets to vote, and that's what ends up happening. And it did pass. And so now town code is that we have 6-foot fences. Now, how does that relate? Well, the planning board, like I said, being in charge of construction projects, their goal is to make sure that any new project fits the code that the town established. They kind of have to make sure that they are giving opinions and that they're asking for certain things from developers, but ultimately their restriction is the code. Weirdly enough, the Zoning Board of Appeals, their whole job is to get around the code, usually slightly. If the fence code is 6 feet and someone asks for 20-foot castle wall, that's probably not going to work. But if you're looking for something that slightly varies from the code, that's where you can go petition them, and whether they approve or deny, that's their function. There's one other thing that the town board does that none of the other boards are allowed to do. We're going to get into this a bit more when we get to planning and zoning boards, but the town board also gets to rezone entire properties from one zoning to another. And since this leads so well into other videos, and I'll talk about this more in other videos, I do want to show it to you. So in the town of Ogden, just like in any other town, there is a zoning map, and you are only allowed to build things that match that zoning. In the town of Ogden, everything starts as residential. Everything. People say, well, that was zoned as farming. There is no farming zone. In fact, farms are in R1 residential. That's just how it is. Schools, ironically, are in R1 residential. And then we have other zones. We've got, general commercial. That's where you're allowed to have fast food places and restaurants. Then we also have light industrial, and that's where you have much of the bigger warehouses. And there's a number of factors that have to take place in order to fit in those zonings. But you cannot build outside of the zone. The only thing that can be done is the town board can rezone a property from one zoning code to another. And then that allows the contractor to go in and build according to that zone. I talked about this a little bit in a previous video, but the Walgreens Plaza, there will be construction going on in that plaza starting this year and going on for the next several years. That piece of property has been zoned general commercial for 20, 30, 40 years, a lot longer than I've been here. So our job is to try and facilitate the right projects happening. But as far as rezoning goes, the town board made that decision a very long time ago. And we don't get the legal right to just go ahead and take that away. We would absolutely get sued because, again, when a developer buys a parcel, especially from a farmer, that developer is interested in development, and the farmer is interested in selling their land for a profit. They don't ask our permission for them to sell it. That is a private transaction that happens between two people. Okay, well, that's all the time that I have for this specific video, sort of just setting up the next couple videos, talking mostly about the authority that the town board has on town code and rezoning certain parcels of property. I hope that was enlightening, and I really hope that it sets up the next two videos for you to better understand, how does a construction project go through all of the different phases to get to fruition. So I hope you'll join me in the next couple videos, and then after that, we'll get back to our regular 10-minute Tuesdays. But thank you so much for watching. I do hope it was enlightening, and I really hope that you have a great rest of your week. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.